Okay, before we get into the meat and guts and potatoes of what your employees want, let's make sure you're okay because you probably don't have enough people on your team. Personally, I think the HR team of one is a bad idea. I've never seen it go well. I've worked at companies that have had maybe 80 employees and there's one HR person, and I can tell you how that ended. It was not a good experience for us. The company didn't do great, and that HR person was burnt to a crisp. I've talked to Christie Williams, and the only time this is okay is when it's like 25 to 50 employees. If you're not growing and you have very little turnover, if you're really just that boss at what you do, technically you could pull this off, but it's not scalable. And you are literally the fail-safe of so many pieces of your employee experience that it's just not wise. And we're going to get into more of the ROI of you in a second. But just to be clear, you guys, I can't figure out where to put my picture of myself. The more I looked into a day in your life and talked to all of you when I was doing my research as a product marketer at an HR tech company, I was like blown away by the amount of things that you own in the background that nobody has any idea what you do, what you touch, and what you make sure happens. Things like payroll, compliance, policies, benefits, every little conflict that pops up. You're hiring someone, you're firing someone, you're onboarding someone. Like holy context switching on top of all the times you get interrupted in a day. This is a social post that I can link out to, but I was just trying to be funny. You don't have to sit here and read it. You can pause it if you'd like, a little giggle. But the amount of interruptions you get and what they're for, you are truly made of gold because I was in marketing studying you. I couldn't handle this. Someone's getting married. Someone's getting divorced. Someone had a baby. Someone's like getting evicted from their house. Someone just has a question about their 401k. Someone's locked out of their email. Someone's mom died. Like that is just so much emotional load that you deal with in a day. And if there's only one or a few of you and so many other employees, it's not wise to just like assume that you all can handle all of this burden that goes on in the background that other people just, they don't know what a day in your life is like, especially the executives. They have no clue. So assuming you are properly staffed, you should be able to get into the two modes of HR. We're going to talk about how you know you're not properly staffed, even though I know you know. But when you're properly staffed, you should be able to get into run the business, which is your smooth day-to-day operations, which is what I know you all love when there's systems and payroll and benefits and compliance is just happening. It's fluid. Things are set up. People have to get paid. It's stuff that you can't not do though. It's stuff that if it doesn't happen, you're in big trouble. People need benefits. People have to get paid. You can't be like, I don't have time for it. I'm sending a survey. We'll do benefits later. You don't have a choice. So you are very busy in run the business mode. And I think this is where you're used to operating. But you have to get into change the business mode, which is when you're innovating and planning for the future by sending surveys and making sure your managers aren't traumatizing everyone and making sure your onboarding is updated because it's likely a relic and you're lucky you even stood up an onboarding in the first place. I know, but the onboarding needs to evolve over time and grow and change. And you need to get feedback from new employees like, was that a good onboarding? And they're going to say, oh, this could have been better. And it's not a personal attack, but you need to have time to get into change the business mode to be constantly improving the employee experience. A lot of HR leaders and teams are just stuck and run the business and they're trying to drive engagement and they're wondering what's wrong with them. And it's just simply that you don't have enough people on your team. So some very clear indicators, which some of these you might be like, Christie, duh. But it's one of those things like the joy is in the journey. You need to live a little bit of life to really understand the sentiment of that. Like, oh, okay, I can't have everything all at once. It takes a lot of hard work. Got it. If your team, your HR team, whether it's you or several people, if you all are experiencing any level of burnout, like you're all getting sick, none of you have taken a vacation, you know. If you're all burned out, there's delays in response times and there's compliance issues, you don't have enough people. There's nothing wrong with you. There's too much going on and not enough warm bodies to do the HR function properly. If you're dealing with turnover and you don't really know what the root cause is, let me back up. A healthy amount of turnover needs to exist. I should find the exact stat, but like people will leave and outgrow your organization. That's normal. But if you have people just talent walking out the door and people arguing and there's a ton of conflict and revenue targets aren't being hit and the executives are crabby, people are getting fired. If you have an exorbitant amount of turnover or just what feels like you're losing people faster than they can offer value, it's time to scale your HR team. Or if they're leaving especially and you don't know why, you don't have enough time to send surveys and digest the data and iterate on what's going on, it's time to scale the HR team. If you have any upcoming growth, I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation. Even if it's a bad market, there's still companies hiring. I talked to an HR leader just the other day and they said, we're a team of 3. We already have 500 employees. I was like, are you okay? And they're like, yes. They said, we're getting ready to hire 200 more people. We're scaling big time. I'm so excited. And I said, oh, that is exciting. How many of those hires are for you? And they said, none. And I was like, oh no, you're not going to make it. And I don't mean to be rude or direct, but a good portion of that should be for you to make sure that HR team is able to give their all to all that many new employees. You keep adding employees, it just gets noisier and more chaotic and more things pop up and people are experiencing the same bad onboarding, the same bad managers. You add more people and you don't scale the HR team, that's not sustainable and it's not going to be a good experience even for you. You're going to be bogged down in the weeds of the chaos and anarchy of a company scaling without you. That's kind of silly. You're not silly. It's silly that an executive doesn't get it, but we're going to talk about how to convince them. SHRM is in a little bit of hot water right now, timely, if you're watching this in 2023. I almost said 2016. SHRM says that at 500 plus employees, you just need one extra HR person for every 150 employees. And I think that is bananas, crazy, bonkers, because I've worked at companies of that size and the HR team has been too small and we don't know where to file a complaint, so we just don't. We are lost in the all hands because it's boring and there's no real vision for the company, so we just kind of like tootle along. And there's too many meetings, there's not clarity around goals or what's the point, how do we ladder up into the bigger picture. You need to have a really healthy HR team to be able to be emotionally available to that many people. Because another thing that happens that I've personally lived as an employee is I reach out to the HR team for something serious or not, and they kind of give me like a weird white label answer because they don't know me like at all. And I know some companies are pretty big, but I think it's actually a product of the HR team is just like a ticket system. What's next? And there were deeper things happening that a discussion or like, well, what do you mean by this? I mean, there was a lot more to be told if you read in between the lines of what I had to say or what I was trying to convey or whatever it was. There wasn't enough of an HR team to be like, oh, we should investigate this, or like this might lead to some other loose tangle in our employee experience. And like, what is this? They didn't have the time to think critically. They were just like, here's your 401k. Here's the answer to your question. Here's the link to the all hands. Bye. You know, it was, I didn't like that experience and I didn't feel close to them. And I have felt close to HR teams before. So essentially, scaling your team is an art. I could sit here and tell you, this is exactly what you should do. And when you hit this many employees, this is exactly what you should hire for. But I don't know what you're good at. Only you do. So don't overthink it. Hire for what you don't like to do. You don't like payroll? You're not super excited by benefits? Sucks out your soul at the end of the year? That's okay. There's people who really do love and have a passion for payroll and benefits and even compliance. Those people totally exist. It might be you. Maybe you need to hire someone who's super passionate about onboarding. If you don't like benefits and your company's really small, find someone who's a master or like a deep expert in benefits who also has an interest in onboarding. Find that in your, interview process. Find someone who maybe you still wish you could do onboarding, but you really need to hand it off and delegate and let go of your Legos in a way that other people can give a good experience on behalf of you faster, better. You can hire someone who's benefits and onboarding. It doesn't have to be like this super specific title. Just fill in the gaps for what you don't like to do that takes you too much time. Maybe it's not your strength. And you could even find someone, there's all these titles that exist. You can use ChatGPT, you can ask me, but maybe you need an employee experience specialist, someone who's really into building culture and is very data-driven but qualitative and can own sending your surveys or your survey strategy, which we're going to cover later in the course, so that you can be in executive meetings or you can be handling other parts of the business like goals and management training. Just find what you love and then go fill in the gaps for what you don't love or what you don't have time for. And this is something I need to make very clear to you. Before you go ask your executive for more headcount, you need to reposition yourself that you are not a cost center. This is an executive thing because they care about revenue. That's their job. You are the ultimate revenue driver, okay? A cost center in the minds of executives is like, oh, you don't bring in any ROI, you don't close deals, you're not sales and marketing, you're not product or engineering or customer success, or if you have frontline employees, you're not like the warehouse manager. Like there's ROI in the productivity, in the shipments made, in the pipeline generated that led to deals that closed. Executives can very easily track who's driving the most revenue and see them as like, oh, we need to keep investing in those parts of the business. But whose job is it to make sure all those revenue drivers stay at the company because they're having a good employee experience, that they know what's expected of them at work, that they feel empowered and connected, and they feel like the team is high functioning and they're collaborating and giving their best ideas? That's your job. So it's your job to make sure all the revenue drivers are okay so that they stay. That makes you the ultimate revenue driver, okay? So never let anyone ever tell you again that you cost the business money, that you're a necessary evil, that you're just there to exist to keep the company out of trouble. You are the foundation on which employees decide, does this company care about me or not? And am I going to stay? Am I going to stay and give my all? Or am I going to stay and quiet quit because I can get away with it? When you need to convince a leader to expand your headcount and you kind of go into it knowing like, this isn't going to go great. That's okay. Let's just change your thinking. Instead of the typical, what people tell me like, oh, it didn't go great. I'm like, what did you say? And they're like, well, I told them everything's falling apart. And like, this is just ridiculous. This is crazy. We can't keep up. We need to hire more people. An executive won't hear that and have empathy. Remember, they kind of forgot their golden rule because they're so focused on revenue, money. But they kind of forgot along the way, it's the people and the employees that get them to the revenue that they want so badly. So when you explain your ask, you need to make sure you're using words that they will perk up and be like, what? Say what now? So when you talk about turnover and how expensive it is, by using the Gallup report that we have in the resources section, and I'll put it in the notes of this lesson, when you're talking about having a solution to like reducing costs or driving more productivity, which leads to a healthier bottom line, there's real percentages in that report. So find your way to tell them in their language why your solution to your problem is also a solution to their problem, because you all kind of just want the same thing. You talk in terms of people, executives talk in terms of money, managers talk in terms of productivity, and employees just want to not hate where they work. So everybody wins when you get really good at using your power of influence to explain to them and convince them why not investing in HR is kind of crazy. It's like high risk, very low reward. It's not wise. Okay? I have a cheat sheet that I will add to the resources section as well. That's like the top terms that executives use. And it's things you may have never heard of, so don't be scared. But it's like MRR, CAC, ARR, churn, burn rate. There's these terms that they use, and I gave you an example of how they use it and how you can use it to change their mind about something, okay? So just have that like bookmarked and at the ready. You never know when you're going to need it. But the more you learn it, you'll start to hear them use these buzzwords, and you're going to be like, oh, I know what this means. So remember to talk how executives think. Figure out what they care about by having one-on-ones with them. Whoever you report to, whether it's an old dog in HR or it's the executive, they think in terms of revenue, productivity, customer growth, and innovation. Those are their like key areas of focus and what they pay attention to. When you can show the ROI by using the Gallup report, they need that data. They don't care about your hunch, and they forgot their gift of empathy, and you're going to help them remember it by talking about money. That's okay, as long as we all get to the same place. All conversations lead to Rome when you understand what everyone cares about. So executives don't care about your hunch, even though you're usually right in your gut. We need to scale. Something's not right. People are disengaged. I need budget. You're right, but you need to show them with data why you're right. And you need to show them more engaged teams are more productive, everything in that Gallup report. And if you are met with resistance, it might take a couple tries. For me personally, this is a good lesson to remember curiosity over anger. Sometimes you're in a power dynamic where you can't afford to get angry. I sometimes in my career would like turn into a spicy baked potato in 2 seconds when I felt misunderstood. Sometimes it can divert into people pleasing. Like just you tried once to get their buy-in, they said no, and you're like, okay, because that was so stressful for you to step out of your comfort zone and talk to them about something that they shut you down, which is kind of hard not to take personally. You're like, okay, so I don't deserve to be properly staffed, but everybody else does. What? It's not personal. You just might need a couple tries and keep asking them why. When they shut you down and say, we don't have time for this, we don't have budget for this, tell me more about what you feel. Tell me more about why you feel that way. I promise you there's a real human under there. They're hiding their real reason why you need to pull the spooked horse out of the stable and be like, tell me more. It's okay. If you ask the right questions and just tell them you're really committed to helping them and the company achieve their goals and to drive the business forward, and that you're trying to understand more about why. Okay? This is a growth moment. These are the moments where it's like, take the red pill, take the blue pill. Why would you want to work for a CEO who doesn't want to listen to your perspective? And if you've tried to relay this back to ROI and revenue and dollars, some executives really are jerks. Like deep down, they're kind of like deaf to anything qualitative in the workplace, and they just don't get it. You don't want to be at those organizations, okay? Don't work for a CEO who doesn't care about you and doesn't care about the people and has no signs of getting it anytime soon. That is like workplace abuse, and you don't deserve to waste your skills and talents there, okay? All right, pep talk over. But always have this statement ready. Like something, if you're like really hitting that resistance and they're like, no. If you can memorize this phrase, this is a strategic investment in our bottom line. Strategic investment. Yeah, I'm asking you to spend money. I'm asking for more headcount. I'm asking for your blessing here to spend money on what you think is a cost center. I'm the ultimate revenue driver. I need this to better take care of our revenue drivers. I need to give a better employee experience in these ways. And this is what use that Gallup report again. This is a strategic investment because of da. Okay? Sweet. I want to do a little exercise. What gaps currently exist on your HR team? Don't hold back. Even if you're like, just like, I don't know, maybe this. Just list it out. And then who do you need to convince that this is important? And what do they care about? Okay? Do you see how we're piecing together a little bit of a plan here for you? If you're in between companies, this is still really good for you to know for next time. At some point, you're going to have to scale your team. When you get great at driving engagement, because you will, it becomes a lot of fun. Your HR team is going to have to scale. As your employee experience gets better and you're improving engagement levels, your company is going to start hiring for other stuff. You're going to start opening other facilities. Your HR team needs to grow with it. So it's never going to stop this narrative that you need to be feeding to the powers that be, that HR is the most foundational piece of getting all of this right and unlocking the long-term scalable success of the business. Okay? All right, I'll see you in the next lesson.